Hi friends, many of us have perhaps heard that all human beings have rights which are guaranteed by law in whichever place we reside. In India, for instance, our rights are guaranteed by our constitution itself. Some of us are perhaps also aware that like every adult, children too have rights. However, as children are more vulnerable, the responsibility of ensuring that every child enjoys rights is placed on every adult. Several international conventions such as the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child and national laws, programs and policies in India guarantee these rights for every child. What happens when these rights are not provided? When a right is taken away or violated, it is called abuse. Abuse, simply explained therefore, is a violation of rights. And when the victim is a child, it is recognized as child abuse. In our conversation now, today that is, let us try and understand the various kinds of abuse, how we should recognize it, and what is the legal framework for protection from abuse. The rights of children which are guaranteed by laws, policies and programs in India are the rights to survival, to protection, to development and participation. Every time any of these rights of the child is violated, abuse occurs. For instance, let me give you an example. Every child below the age of 14 years is entitled to free and compulsory education, which is further ensured by the right of children to free and compulsory education, the RTE Act 2009. However, if children cannot avail of this, or there is no system to ensure that they do not drop out of school, or if they are forced into work or marriage instead of being in school and studying, their rights are being violated. And this, dear friends, is a form of abuse. School is a place where the child spends many hours and many years. As teachers, we are the ones who spend most time with children after their families. And considering our role, it is important to know and understand the types of child abuse that children may face so that we can recognize this abuse early and prevent further trauma. It may be important to understand here also that any one form of abuse can result in other kinds as well, whether intended or not. For example, a slap to discipline may cause emotional abuse, the scars of which may not be so visible. There are various forms of abuse children may be exposed to, including physical, sexual, emotional abuse and neglect. Physical abuse, for instance, includes actions on the child, whether it is with the hand or using some other object, that inflict pain or injury. These actions may include punching a child, stabbing a child, burning, shaking, hitting, slapping, twisting of the ears. Signs of physical abuse can be seen on the child's body, such as wounds, bruises, burns, fractures and sore muscles. These all may be some signs by which the abuse can be identified. Emotional abuse, on the other hand, refers to adult or peer behavior that have a negative influence on the child's self-worth or emotional development. Criticizing the child or comparing the child with other children in terms of intelligence or any other activity, threatening your child, making comments on the child's appearance, on the child's gender, the child's caste, the child's customs and community may also cause emotional abuse. There are no obvious physical signs of emotional abuse. Hence, sometimes it is difficult to identify. However, it impacts the child greatly, resulting in sudden changes in the child behavior, which is a telling indicator of emotional abuse. It can also result in depression, sleep disturbances, bedwetting, undue aggression, so on and so forth. Neglect refers to the failure of meeting the basic needs of the child. Neglect can be physical, such as leaving your child without parental supervision for hours at a time, or simply not providing food, medical help, such as not getting your child the medical care that he or she needs. It can be educational, such as not educating your child or ignoring that your child has special education needs. It can be emotional, such as not providing emotional support for your child when they are feeling down and out. Neglect may have a connection with the gender of the child, and that is something which we need to keep in mind. For example, a girl may be treated very differently as compared to her brother in the same family, and that can result in a huge impact on the child. Therefore, we have spoken about physical, emotional abuse and neglect. When a person misuses their position of power or authority and performs any act with the child for their own sexual gratification, this is referred to as sexual abuse, which is the last form of abuse that we will be discussing today. In other words, sexual abuse includes any type of behavior towards a child that aims at the offender's sexual stimulation. It is often misunderstood that sexual abuse is always an act of violence involving pain and assault. However, it can be of many kinds, stretching from showing a child sexual content and having an inappropriate sexual conversation with the child to rape and assault. Thus, child sexual abuse involves both contact and non-contact abuse and may include touch or may not include touch. Non-contact abuse, for instance, may include engaging in any kind of sexual activity in front of the child, including watching pornography, showing the child pornography. Online abuse is another form of non-contact, where you meet the child online in chat rooms or otherwise and indulge in inappropriate conversation. It can include taking, downloading or viewing or distributing of sexual images of children. Contact abuse also has many kinds similarly, including kissing, fondling, encouraging a child to perform sexual acts, inappropriate sexual touching of a child, whether clothed or unclothed, and of course, penetrative sex, rape and assault. It is very important, friends, to understand that child sexual abuse is gender neutral. Both boys and girls can be victims of sexual abuse, but abuse of girls is more reported. The second very important thing to understand is that more often than not, the abuser is someone the child knows and trusts. Children often do not talk about sexual abuse because they think it's their fault, or they've been convinced by their abuser that it is normal or a special secret. Or children may also be bribed or threatened by their abuser or told they will not be believed. I will harm your family. I will hit your father. I will take your brother and run away. So many kinds of threats. An abuser often uses a long process of what we call grooming the child for abuse. So, a child who is very shy, the abuser would take the effort of getting to know the child. Once the child slips into this whole process of grooming, it makes the child vulnerable and leads the child to not wanting to disclose the abuse, because it started with trust, it started with affection. Child sexual abuse is not easy to detect, but there are a few warning signals which should make us stop and look again at the child in question. We must start talking to the child when we see these indicators and start helping them to articulate if there is any difficulty ongoing in their life. Poor attendance of a child in class who used to be regular. Sudden changes in behavior. A child may start becoming aggressive, withdrawn, or the opposite, clingy. A child may have difficulties in sleeping, have nightmares, or start wetting the bed. Sudden likes and dislikes for an individual, sudden supply of toys, gifts, over attention towards his or her own appearance by the child, or not paying attention at all to anything. In short, any sudden changes along with injuries in private parts, physical symptoms such as nausea, difficulty in walking can also be other indicators. If the above indicators are seen in the child, it becomes imperative for the teacher, family to talk to the child and find out what is going on. Very often, we fail to prevent or respond to child abuse because of certain beliefs. For instance, the belief that child sexual abuse only happens with girls. Gender, my friends, has very little to do with the victim. Study on child abuse in India carried out by the Ministry of Women and Child Development in 2007 found that over 52%, in fact 52.94% of children who reported facing one or more forms of sexual abuse were male. They were boys. Another common belief that we have is that generally child sexual abuse cannot be stopped. Of course it can. It can be stopped with more awareness, with proper implementation of law, and with active participation of each stakeholder. Friends, we are all responsible for the protection of a child. We also believe somewhere, some of us too, that it takes place only in dark, lonely places in the night by a stranger. But CSA can take place anywhere. This is very evident from the cases reported to 1098. CSA, it is believed, happens usually with children who are provocative in behavior, those who are over mature, or it is also believed that it rarely occurs in educated families. There is no evidence that links socio-economic status, race or educational level to sexual abuse. Sexual abuse of children occurs within every neighborhood and school, within every community across the country. This, therefore, is another myth that it only happens with some people somewhere. Actually, friends, it can happen with any child, anywhere. According to the 2007 report by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, which I mentioned before, almost 22% of child respondents reported facing severe forms of sexual abuse. And of the total cases that were reported, 50% claimed that they knew the perpetrators. That's the really shocking bit, isn't it? It means it could be anyone. The abuser could be anyone. The father, the uncle, the bus driver, the cleaner, the neighbor. It could be anyone. As per that report, more than 53% children in India reported one or more forms of abuse. Of these children, 53% were boys and 47% were girls, establishing well and truly that both girls and boys are equally vulnerable. The Indian legal policy and program framework provides various provisions to deal with abuse of all kinds. So, as I said right at the outset, it's not as if there is no hope, there is. Our constitution ensures fundamental rights and also protects children from trafficking, from forced labor, from material and moral abandonment. Based on this foundation, policies such as the National Policy for Children, plans of action, and special legislation to counter abuse such as child marriage, labor, and acts such as the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015 and the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012 provide a very robust framework for protection from abuse. Child abuse, my friends, especially sexual abuse, leaves a child scarred for life with memories that take very, very long to heal. Some impact, in fact, remains forever. As I've said earlier, I reiterate, it is not the responsibility of the police, it is not the responsibility of the state, it is not the responsibility of the parent, it is not the responsibility of the child. In fact, it is all our collective responsibility, including us teachers, to make sure that the child is safe. I'll leave you here with a thought which keeps many of us awake at nights. In the last 3 years, more than 20,000 cases of child sexual abuse were reported on Childline 1098. And among these reported cases, 71% abusers were known to the child. Keep your children safe.